Hello Internet and welcome to Know Your Combo series. The premise here is simple. I'll try to explain some of the more common commander combos and show you how and when to interact with them. In this episode we'll take a look at Freed from the Real. This unassuming aura enchantment is very unique in its design. And this, as usual, resulted in some unforeseen interactions with many other cards since its first printing. But first let's talk a little bit more about the main hero of this video. Freed from the Real is an aura enchantment that costs 2 generic and 1 blue mana to cast. It requires a valid target in form of the creature and grants nothing. This is the unique part. Aura itself has 2 abilities, each costing 1 blue mana to activate. First one taps an enchanted creature and the second one untaps it. At its core it's a very simple mechanic. Of course, simple mechanics can break the game in many ways, so let me show you some examples. One of the easiest ways in which we can abuse this aura is interaction with some more powerful mana dorks. For example, Bloomtender, Feybarrow Elder and Sanctum Weaver. Each of those has a mana ability that has potential of generating much more than singular mana. Bloomtender and Feybarrow Elder care about the colors of our permanents, and when Freed from the Real is attached to them, they generate either blue and green or white, blue and green with their ability. This is very convenient for us, since it already gives us the singular blue mana we need to untap enchanted creature with Freed from the Real ability. And from here we just proceed with the tap and tap dance until our mana pool is filled with some ungodly numbers. What we do with it depends on our commander, but if you want to run something like that in a deck, you probably should have some kind of mana outlet in the command zone. You can learn more about my commander classification from the YouTube thingy that is somewhere in the corner of the screen. But let's get back to the topic. In the top 3 targets for mana generation abuse we also have Sanctum Weaver. This fine specimen of mana dork cares about the number of enchantments under our control on the battlefield, while being an enchantment creature itself. So when enchanted with Freed from the Real, it produces at least 2 mana of any color with its mana ability. For that reason, is probably the most flexible option that can generate absurd numbers of any color of mana. As far as clean A plus B combos goes, those 3 are probably your go-to option. But there is a card that breaks this in a very funny way. Kinnan Bonder Prodigy is on the list of game changers for many reasons. Doubling mana generation from each mana dork is among them. I know it's not technically double but 1 additional mana, but in 90% of the cases it's effectively doubling. Now back to video. When we have Kinnan deployed on the field, any creature that can tap for blue mana can start the combo with Freed from the Real. In some cases, even Kinnan itself. With some help from Cryptolith Rite, Enduring Vitality or Paradise Mantle, of course. Speaking of Paradise Mantle, this equipment will be talked a lot in this video. But in the section of mana abuse I want to mention it in the context of Magda, Brazen Outlaw. With Magda wearing Paradise Mantle and with Freed from the Real attached to her, we can tap her for blue mana, triggering her static ability and generating a treasure token. Then use blue from our mana pool to untap her. The loop can continue until we are content with our treasure hoard. That can be used for mana at any time. Or just feed Magda's other ability of searching dragons and artifacts. But that's a whole different video. Maybe. Let me know in the comments. Now let's talk about something different. If you don't like just doing stuff with unlimited mana, you can go with some more pew 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 approach. Fresh from the Final Fantasy set we have Yuna, Grand Summoner. And as in the actual game we can use her as a tactical nuke that just clears enemies. With some extra steps of course. And without Bahamut or Anima. When we enchant Yuna with Freed from the Real, we can abuse her Grand Summon ability. The effect of additional +1/+1 counters stacks, so we can just tap Yuna for blue, use it to untap her, and repeat the process until we are sure that we have enough loaded ammo. And then we cast Walking Ballista for 0 mana. It will enter with the amount of counters equal to double of Yuna's Grand Summon activation. From here we can just proceed to pew everyone with Ballista's ability. This also works with Triskelion. but here we must be a little bit honest and actually spend some mana for the creature. Of course, as in the case of mana, here we also can do more degenerate stuff if we add some additional elements. To be precise, we need some way of tapping a creature that gives us mana as the end result. Usual suspects in the form of Paradise Mantle, Relic of Legends, Cryptolith Rite and Enduring Vitality once again come to the table, and enable some different bullshit. For example, if we want to just deal damage to the enemies, we assemble our combo with Goblin Medics or Spireside Infiltrator. They deal 1 damage each time they become tapped. So if we enable them with Freed from the Real and a mana ability, game ends quite quickly with a breakdancing torque that shoots people. For a more edgier approach, we can use Night Market Lookout and drain our opponents 1 point at a time. This bypasses protection effects, so in some aspect is a better option to finish games. And if you are in the camp of watching as the joy fades from your opponent's eyes, here's a piece of cardboard for you. Grimoire Thief. As usual, merfolks do some unhinged stuff, and this one is no exception. With our setup we can just exile all cards from our opponent's libraries, and wait for their end underdusted. Now something less aggressive. If dealing with your opponents is not high on your priority list, our setup of Freed from the Real and giving a creature ability to tap for mana can be used for more personal benefit. Enter Follow Sage. Yes, another merfolk. And yes, it also does unhinged stuff in the right context. Our plan is that context, so we can just draw as many cards as we want. Does it win the game? Not by itself. But if you cannot win while having 80 plus cards in hand, I think you should watch some video about designing a game plan. Link somewhere on the screen. We also have something in different colors, with better stats and lower mana value. In the form of Wily Duke, Etin Hero. He not only draws us a card when tapped, but gives us a life point as a treat. Okay, we covered the abuse of tapping triggers with Freed from the Real. So it's time for something completely different. Abuse of untapping triggers with Freed from the Real. Did you really expect something different here? Don't answer that. Moving on. In the ancient times of 2014 in the land of Terras, there was a keyword mechanic called Inspired, which triggers some kind of ability when a creature becomes untapped. And there's a few that are quite interesting. Let's start with the Servant of Timurat, who has ability of draining our opponents when he untaps. Unlike Night Market Lookout, he gives us life equal to life lost by our opponents during ability resolution, which may be relevant in some cases. Next on the list is Siren of the Silent Song, a very fragile flyer that forces discard and mills a card from our opponents when untapped. She is in the similar category as Grimoire Thief, with a side gig of Hand Disruption. We end this short section with the honorable mention of King Makar the Gold Cursed, who is probably the most honest thing mentioned in this video so far. His ability allows us to exile a creature when he's becoming untapped. If we do, we not only solve some kind of problem, but also get a gold coin for our trouble. This by itself is not a game-winning combo, more like hard lock on creature strategies, and a way to clean up after token deck without enabling a bunch of dead triggers, which is more relevant than I would like to admit, so he gets a place here in the spotlight. That's all for the actual combo spotlight. However, Freed from the Real is so generic that it can result with an absurd number of permutations that by accident end up as game-winning combos when the right elements are in play. For a quick example, Emery, Lurker of the Loch, Lotus Petal, Aetherflux Reservoir and our Innocent Aura can result in continuous blasts for 50 damage to the opponent's face. And with that picture in our mind, let's move to the part when we talk about stopping this bullshit from happening. which is deceptively hard if we want to actually talk about it in form longer than just run creature removal or counter it. Because that sentence is not wrong. This works very well. But that's a reactive approach, and we want to have an ability to proactively shut this down. Uniqueness of Freed from the Real makes some soft counterplays invalid. Ability to untap is part of an aura, not a creature. So effects like Pitting Needle, Phyrexian Revoker or Sorcerer's Spyglass are less effective, since they will turn off only half of the combo. Of course, you can name Freed from the Real itself, but that just costs you a card, while not impacting the board or delaying opponents that deploy their mana dorks. So we need something that's more like carpet bombing rather than targeted precise strike. In my opinion, the best answer would be the Curse Totem. It's not something that goes into all decks, but for those that can support it without hindering their own game plan, it's a great disruption piece. In similar manner, Linvala, either by herself or with Drana, can have similar impact. But we exchange the downside of turning off our creatures for color requirements. I didn't find any other option that would make sense to run over a good interaction spell. You can be cute with something like Steely Resolve and naming a type of creature that wins the game when Freed from the Real is attached to prevent that, but it's a very specific stacks piece that you'll probably regret running in the most games. That puts us back in the play interaction territory. So let's take a look at some specific things that work well against this combo while still being a good card in other cases. Starting with universal solvent called Abrupt Decay. It can target almost anything that works well with Freed from the Real and the aura itself. It cannot be countered, which is nice, but most combos can be performed at instant speed, so using it during combo loop does not work if the opponent can't pump additional mana and trigger another activation before it resolves. To bypass that, we should take a look at Cross and Grip. It's on the more expensive side with mana value 3, but Split Second prevents another activation of Freed from the Real in response, not to mention using a counterspell for protection. Wipe Away shares this ability, and can bounce anything that Freed from the Real is attached to, which also puts a problematic aura into the graveyard. Oh, there's also Trickbind, which, as usual, is a temporary solution, but a solution nonetheless. You'll need a quick follow-up after it, unfortunately. This will be all for this topic. If you have something to add or have another combo that you would like to have explained in this format, feel free to drop that in the comments below. Also, like, share and subscribe to appease algorithm Jesus. See ya in the next one.